Alrighty guys, welcome back indeed for more Path of Exile content. So in this video, what we're going to be focusing in on is just making sure our build is really good. Even though what I wanted to show you guys is actually like the next boss fight, which is going to be using all those 4 pieces that we got. It is significantly more difficult, and I was actually checking out the Discord and reading some of you guys' comments, and you guys wanted some extra suggestions for your builds to make it a little bit more powerful. And I'll also go over these newer Flask changes that I do want to mention. So first off, there's lots of different ways we can upgrade and make our character more powerful. And there's also different things that we can modify the map to have better chance for drops. So as we progress, what we're going to be able to do is socket in all of these little stones. And then you might have picked up some of these things called Sextants. These are going to actually enable the modification of the map in order to get maybe better loot or change kind of how the map plays out. So for example, if I was to do this map over here, since it's in this area, we have all of these watchstones affecting this region. So if I want to, let's say, move a watchstone, this one has been affected by a sextant. So let me actually just do one that's completely blank, and then I will modify it. So there's multiple different types of sextances that you can acquire. There's simple, there's prime, and there's awaken. So these can determine the effects of the modifier. And each one of these stones that you put in will have a certain amount of uses. So you can see this one has 2 uses remaining. Now if I throw this sextant over here on this watchstone, it's going to put 3 uses on this one in particular. There are other ways to modify these watchstones, but this is just one way to do it. So you'll see that there's 3 uses remaining over here. Now what we're going to do is put this over here, and when we do any of these maps in this area, you can also just right click on the map and I'll just show you exactly where it's going to be. That will be an area that will have these modifiers. Some of these you do got to pay attention to because they can affect your build. Like this one over here, players and monsters take increased cold damage. That's actually pretty good. But there is technically a downside to them as well. Sometimes these can, again, be things that you may want to roll off because a certain thing might be too difficult, whatever the case may be. Another thing I want to go and mention in this part of our play session is Scarabs. What are these? So if you pick these up, you can throw them inside of your map device, and when you roll the map, it will roll whatever Scarab you throw. You can throw in multiple Scarabs of different types, and it will be able to be active. So you'll see when we throw this in, you'll see all these different modifiers. And the map is still white, has no other changes to it. I could throw an alk on it and make it even more difficult and get more loot potentially, but I'm just gonna do this one really quick, so I don't want to have any like modifiers where we make it a lot longer than necessary. But I'm gonna go ahead and roll this map really quick, and you guys can see kind of the speed that I'm doing things at. Keep in mind, if you're not able to do things at the exact same speed, that's totally fine. However, the next boss fight that we are going to be doing is a little bit more challenging. It's significantly got way more HP, and we'll show that off later. But I just want to make sure everyone's able to still complete the map at like T16 Awakener 8. Remember, the Awakener level determines how hard the fights will actually be for your like maps. So right now we're on Awakener 8. You can get it to Awakener 9, but that's going to be a mechanic we'll talk about maybe later. But another thing I wanted to mention, because I haven't shown off any of these alternate quality gems. Now, I purchased this one. This is the Divergent Tornado Shot. So we're still using Tornado Shot, but the Divergent one, what it grants us when we have quality is extra additional attack speed versus the extra bonus on the projectile damage. What's worth more in terms of DPS? 99% of the time, the increased attack speed will outweigh the regular variant of Tornado Shot. Now, if you want to buy this, it's about 40 to 50 chaos. Let me go and actually show a few different things that we can get for upgrades. We can get an upgraded armor. It depends on how much currency that you have, like how much do we have in terms of like money to actually purchase some of these things. So what I've been doing is I've been checking PoE.ninja. Again, that's the fantastic website, PoE.ninja, to check out the other builds and see what they're doing at the highest level of the game in terms of like what's the best DPS. Keep in mind, most of the time they will be relatively accurate. However, there are things that people do. Maybe there's a bug that goes on, and like, you know, there are things where it's not always 100%, but it's really close to being accurate in terms of like what's the best thing for the maximum DPS. And some of you guys may have seen other YouTube videos of, let's say, Tornado Shot, and you're thinking, oh, this guy's like killing the boss in 2 seconds. There's multiple things that are going to be very expensive that you can get that will enable you to do that. However, it's going to be very expensive. Like this belt alone here is about, on average, like 100 exalts. Our build right now is about 2 exalts. So it's 2 out of 100 in terms of like the price difference. And that's just the belt, not counting the bow, which is going to be more likely be multiple exalts as well. There's a lot of things that you may see in other YouTubers' videos that are relatively unrealistic for an average player to hit, especially when you're just starting out. So don't feel like, you know, you messed up on the build because you're not killing the boss so fast, because the gear that they have is incredibly expensive to get. But we'll talk a little bit more about gear in a moment. I just want to go ahead and show you guys the map since I've modified it with the Sextant, and then also we'll throw in the Divergent Tornado Shot. And I'll go over my gem choices. I did actually finally roll 2 reds, because before I had, I think, 1 more green. And I was doing that actually with a newer mechanic. With the, you know what, well, you can actually do it with the crafting bench, which you can throw in your hideout. So the recipe will call for chromatic orbs and vol orbs if you want to try to change the colors of a corrupted item, because you might have gotten like a 6 link that's corrupted, because usually that'll be cheaper to buy. The chest piece that I would ideally like to get is one that has increased base crit, and on top of that it gives us an additional curse, but those can be very pricey. We're talking multiple exalts to get a good one with life rolls on it as well, but nonetheless, we'll talk a little bit more about gear choices later. I just want to give you guys some gameplay content as well in this video versus just showing off and talking a little bit about the build. But our build is really fast. It's awesome. And I'll also talk about some optimization. Some of you guys were saying that you're getting some lag. You know, I honestly got a lot of lag within the past couple days. I don't know if they're doing maintenance or whatever the case may be. But, you know, it just happens, man. It does. Sometimes things can indeed happen. And if you are still doing the league mechanic, that's totally cool too. A lot of people are saying that it's overall not worth it unless you're just upgrading your Scourge tier maps, because when you get a really good item, and what I've been telling people is it's really good to throw in an item that's 5 linked and has 6 sockets, and what you try to do is you 6 link it, and that seems like it's still one of the better ways to use this league mechanic. I mean, yeah, you could get an item, but the problem is that the downsides of these items are so huge, and the upside is like you get some small amount of resistances, or you might get some extra life like I have on my quiver, where we lose out on fire damage completely, which is totally fine because we don't do any fire damage, but then we gain some maximum life. So a lot of people are hoping that this league can get fixed, because sometimes they do patch leagues post-launch. So perhaps it could happen, but I honestly have no idea at this point. Usually what they try to do is within the first week. They've already buffed up the league significantly for the like tier 3 drops, which I made a video about like a week or 2 ago. So I want to say they may be done with this league. Sometimes they just, you know, they release it, they'll buff it once or twice, and then they're like, all right, that's it. And we gotta wait for the next patch for like the next big league update, and maybe this league will be something that goes forward in the game. I think the league new currency is really cool. We're just gonna go kill this boss really fast. And this is pretty much just a quick map. I'm not gonna do it like fully. I'll clean it up like after I show off the build. Oh, nice. And remember, since we threw in that Scarab, we actually have more unique drops potentially. Oh, 4 fusers. That's very nice. The whole thing with PoE is just you gotta keep grinding, you gotta keep getting that stuff. And like I was checking the Discord, and if you guys need any help, you guys can always come to the live stream. That's probably the best way, so that way I can literally just answer a question immediately. But if you comment on this video, I do try to check it out. I usually just try to address it in a video, because I know sometimes people are too shy to comment, or they don't even have a YouTube account. I used to bookmark all the people that I followed until I made a YouTube account. It's weird, but sometimes, you know, people just don't want to make an account. They just want to, you know, they just keep on going back to check if, you know, the YouTuber that they follow, or like technically they just bookmark, or they just go search up every single time has made an update to their video. And I get it. So that's why I try to, instead of answering the comments, I just try to answer in a video form. But sometimes I will also address it via answering you guys in the comments, but I feel like it's better just to make a video about it, because if there's multiple people talking about the same thing, it can be a little bit easier. We're actually almost done with this map, like in terms of like cleaning it up. So remember, again, you want to try to clean up these maps to where it does not say that there's more than 50 enemies left. And you can also maybe do this metamorph. These could be a little bit dangerous. but you know, we should be okay. With these metamorphs, usually I just try to look for anything that says like grants currency. You can make it as hard as possible. I like catalysts, but the thing that I like the most is currency items. Anything else is just, for me at least. What was rare weapons? You can also read what it does, like in terms of like uses puncture or uses whatever. You can make it harder if you want to, but for me, I just the thing that I care the most about is where it tells you the reward. It's like this one still has this little like metallic effect. When it has a metallic effect, that means it'll be dropping another one. But let's go and summon the golem. And if we want to, we can go back, and this is something I always recommend you guys to do. If you want to refill your flasks real easy, and it's because we get such a big buff with the Dodries active that I like to go back sometimes for these. Where's this? Metamorph. And I'll also talk briefly about optimization.
Thank you very much.
You can see we're just melting content. Again, this is still with my very cheap build. Yeah, I mean, the only expensive things I have is the 6-link Hope Shredder and Asinus Trant, and then like the rest of the stuff is just a few chaos a piece, maybe 10, 15, and you know, there might be another that are like 20. So basically it's about 2-ish exalts is our budget right now. But I want to talk more about upgrades and other things we can do. So if you want to, you can consider getting some gloves that have blind. Like I was running these, and these are totally fine too. Like I was just testing it out. I actually really do like blind a lot. So what blind does is, let's tell us right here. Okay, here we go. Great. So being blinded, blind in this most recent like league, this expansion, it got changed. So it used to be 50% less chance to be hit by them. So now it's 20% less accuracy rating and evasion rating for 4 seconds. That actually helps us out because when their evasion rating is lower, that means our chance to hit is higher, which makes it so we have to have less accuracy required. Generally, it's not too big of a deal. As long as your accuracy is about like 95%, you're pretty much good to go. You'll see that my chance to hit is 93%, which could be considered a little bit on the lower side. Usually, you just want it at 100. It's really not that difficult to get accuracy. But the thing is that you can get it on the tree, you can get it on gloves can have accuracy, and heck, there's a bow, I believe, has a ton of accuracy. It can roll all the way up to, let's see, where's the accuracy? Or is that like, let's see, 402? I always have that. It's 400 to 500 accuracy rating, so we got a really low roll on it, whatever, it happens. I'm actually just more interested in the, since it was a 6-link that also had added cold damage, that's why I picked this one up. But you can get a much better bow too, and these are relatively cheap at this point. But yeah, if you want to get some gloves, what you're looking for on gloves generally is going to be attack speed, projectile. I got this for 5 chaos, it was nothing. And then it has global chance to blind enemies, add some physical damage if you crit strike recently, which is really easy for us, and a small amount of extra like bonus life. This we crafted on it just because it hadn't open, and I didn't really want to spend too much on it. But you can still rock these Vixens entrapments with the cursed enemies with Enfeeble, and it gives us the additional curse. Or you can just get one that has an additional curse, and then if you want to have a different curse, that's totally fine too. In terms of other upgrades on the build, other than getting the Divergent Tornado Shot, I haven't changed very much. And you can see we ran the T16 map, deleted the boss relatively fast, and then we also got the boss killed that was the Metamorph boss that spawned in. Haven't really changed anything in terms of our build. You can also get a much better amulet for cheaper now. In fact, I'm probably going to look at getting a better amulet. Now we have about like 50 Chaos Orbs, so I can definitely get a better amulet as well. We have our Stygian Vise. I did have 2 Exalts that I did spend, and I'll show you exactly what I bought on, but there's nothing important in terms of like gems or anything that I swapped in and out. But I did get an item that is relatively expensive that was 2 Exalts. So yeah, our build actually, it's not 2 Exalts, it's about 4 Exalts now because I believe I spent 2 on this, but now this would be probably a little bit cheaper. Watcher's Eye just tend to get cheaper and cheaper. So I purchased a Watcher's Eye. I'll show you what it looks like. So what it grants us is extra, I'll show you guys the roll. So it can roll up to 6% increased maximum life, which is the ideal roll that we can get. And then we're also looking for adds blank to blank cold damage while affected by hatred. Ideally, you get adds cold damage while affected by hatred. You can get physical to cold damage while affected by hatred. You can also get cold percentage damage. Now, each one that you add significantly increases. So like a 1 to 2 Exalt Watcher's Eye might be adds blank to blank cold damage while affected by hatred. A 20 Exalt would be adds cold damage while affected by hatred with an additional percent of, let's say, like I think it goes like 50%-ish cold damage bonus. And then if you really want like the next level, 100 exalts is kind of what you're looking at, depending on the build. You know, these can vary, but each time you want to get one that's affecting what you want, buy it, it gets significantly more expensive for a Watcher's Eye. But that's a Watcher's Eye. These are relatively expensive, but they're so great. It gets you fantastic damage, and on top of that, you'll get extra life. It's one of the best jewels in the game, but you're only limited to running one of those. Now, another thing I do want to mention is actually these flasks. All of my flasks right now are on auto. So I've already talked about this one, the Forbidden Taste. It's used when you take a savage hit. I also have a granite flask and a silver flask and a quicksilver flask, all used when charges reach full. How we're going to actually be able to search for these is this one. Like, I usually like the PoE.trade website. Here's just an example of like the tornado shots that I bought, like the Divergent tornado shot. I paid 45 for mine. What you're looking for is, ideally, you get something that's, you can buy it at max level. You can level them up and it can be cheaper. But I just wanted to buy a 2020 because the difference in price at the time that I at least looked at it was only 5. And I'm like, okay, I'll just buy like a better one. But on the official Path of Exile trade website, if you want to get a flask used when charges reach full, whatever flask that you prefer. Now, this is all optional. I really like having a silver flask, which is like where you get onslaught. I like everything used when charges reach full. The reason why is I don't like pushing the buttons anymore. I really like this update. This was actually in not this league, but in the last league. This is one change that they did that I really loved with these flask changes. So you can go purchase these flasks. You can see all the prices right there, depending on the flasks that you want. Now, there is no life flask that will just be like used when charges reach full, which wouldn't even be like that great, to be honest. But like what I like to do, instead of having a life flask, I just like Forbidden Taste because it's really nice, especially on high evasion builds, because generally you're not going to be taking like chip damage to the point where like you eventually die. A lot of times with these high evasion builds is a huge physical hit to do massive amounts of damage, and then you get followed up by another huge fizz hit. So Forbidden Taste just kind of mitigates that. So again, this isn't super expensive to get as well. I already mentioned Dodries. This is a super cheap item. Got a massive buff in 3.15, which lets you have triple the amount that it used to, and I feel like this is such an underrated item. It's like 1 or 2 chaos. But yeah, I really like this thing as well. So in the next part, we will be doing like the boss that I mentioned. I just want to keep everyone up to par. And actually, I saw some of you guys post like your builds because you wanted some help, and you're like, I'm dying too much or I'm not doing enough damage. When it comes to damage, what you got to do is make sure you're qualitying up all of your gems. I showed you guys how to do that. You take a level 20 gem, and you take the Gem Cutter's Prism, and then you throw it in, and then you will do less damage for a little bit of time. Also, ooh, this is an important thing. Some people were saying they were getting some lag in the game. And what you can do is, let me move my face out of the way, is where it says renderer, it's Vulkan that you want to enable. The thing is that it's a little bit buggy. It is in beta. When I usually do my playthroughs, I don't do Vulkan. The reason why is there's flashy lights that can happen, and it's kind of distracting, honestly. And so I don't enable Vulkan for my playthroughs. However, generally it's going to be way better because, especially with Tornado Shot, and I probably should have mentioned this when we like used it instead of the Ice Shot. Tornado Shot, since there's so many projectiles, if you don't have a good computer or a good graphics card, it will lag your game. So swap it to Vulkan, and like you can see, I play on everything on the lowest settings as possible, pretty much. The engine multi-threading, this can cause an issue too. It just depends on your PC, your setup, what other applications you may use. You can enable or disable the engine multi-threading, and that can actually help you out. Even though like it says not recommended, it helps me out. But yeah, you can change your render, play around with the settings. You know, it's just depending on your PC, but that could be something that could definitely help out, especially with Tornado Shot, with the chains bouncing all the way around, because, well, yeah, that's kind of what Tornado Shot does. But on top of that, I wanted to go over just on the PoE Ninja, some extra little tips that I can give you guys, as well as other things to mention. So like I said before, some of these things that people are using, because I mean, it's a great website to use, but for beginners, they see this and they're like, well, I'm never going to be afford it. And, you know, you partially are right for the most part, honestly, because sometimes they do have multiple people that play on one account, or they have multiple people kind of funneling in things to get to the #1 spot. Like there's a clan or something, they want to get to the #1 spot. Like this belt alone, at least last time I checked, it's like 300 exalts. And you might be looking at this build, wow, he's so good, or you watch a YouTuber's video, and again, it goes the same thing that I was mentioning before. It's because these builds will have so much money to be able to drop into them that's why they can do it. And you can get there too. It's going to take you a long time if you're going to be doing it solo, but it can indeed be done. You can see he's still running Aston's Chant, and he's got a really good quiver as well. The thing that you want with the quiver, it's going to be incredibly expensive, but you can get bows, or I'm sorry, the bow quivers that you can get like projectiles will chain, or you can get like the bow fires additional arrow. That's the most expensive thing, really. Like it's super expensive to get that. We're talking multiple exalts to get a good rolled one on that. And you can see that every single build in the entire game will always have a Watcher's Eye. This is just one really good thing. Lion Icefall actually went up like 10 times in the price within the last time I checked, but you know, prices do fluctuate. This is another great quiver. It does awesome damage, but there's no defensive stats on it, really. And I think that I value the defensive stats right now a little more. Plus, it's kind of expensive. It's almost like an Exalt. Usually it's like 30, 40 chaos. But yeah, it has gone up in price. But you have to read if you are buying like a cheaper one. Like you can see, this one's about half the price as the next one. And it's never deal crit strikes. That's going to be basically useless for most bow builds. So the rest are about almost an Exalt for the prices on that. But if you want a good chess piece that can be better than the one that we currently have, you can still run the one I currently have. It's totally going to be viable for an endgame, doing pretty much all the content. But if you really want to min-max, you want to have the attacks have, you can get up to 2 crit strike chance, and these get super pricey. Usually it's an astral plate that people want because it gives you all res. And then, this one also rolled the frenzy charge on hit. That's pretty good, but yeah, this is going to cost a lot. This one's really good. It's 26 exalts. Again, our build at this point is 4 exalts. Basically 2 exalts to pretty much get the build up and running, but the extra 2 is for the Watcher's Eye, which is a decent amount of extra damage. Our next upgrade is going to be about 3 exalts, and that's going to add Awaken added cold damage is what I'm going to be going for. But yeah, like I said, these can go up in price like crazy. You can also consider getting a better amulet. I'm in fact going to probably upgrade my amulet like right now. But keep on running those maps. Roll those Sextants to make the maps more difficult. Ideally, you want to do those on higher tier maps though, because you don't want to do like tier 1 maps and then throw Sextants in. It's almost a waste, as you'll get better like drops. Generally, the item level will be, you know, higher. But yeah, you can also look at getting better amulet with again, Whispers of Doom is what you're trying to like shoot for. But if you want to get those gloves like I was running before, like these gloves that have additional curse, but you don't get the cursed enemies hit with whatever, then you can run whatever amulet that you want. There's lots of other amulets. Don't feel like you have to get one that has curse on it. It's just the way I think that I can scale things for a cheap price in the very beginning. Later down the line, a lot of people do sell their gear. So like now, getting an item with like plus life with the allocates Whispers of Doom can be very good. You can also get a corruption on an amulet. Like any amulet in the game, you corrupt it, you can apply additional curse, which is amazing. And you can see lots of different results over here. I actually haven't gone through all these. I do want to buy new amulets, so that's why I'm looking at these. But on top of that, you can get a amulet that has the enchant Whispers of Doom, and then on top of that get the corruption to have an additional curse, so it would basically give you double curses. What I actually want to do is get the there's also corrupted oil that you can use to enchant the amulet, so I can actually get something else, because I mentioned before I actually think blind is pretty good this league, but I don't want to invest like it's like 7 points. Let me see, it's what, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points. I do want this though. 20% chance to blind enemies on hit, and then you get 50% increased crit strike chance, and then we have increased blind effect, which is even less accuracy on the opponent and makes it so they're going to be even easier to hit. There's just massive amounts of buffs to blind. Technically, overall, it's still a nerf, regardless, the way I see it, because before you would apply blind and it's just 50%. You know, you could just have, they have 50% less chance to hit, and now it's like, well, they have less evasion rating, and then on top of that, yeah, I think it's still worth it though, just for like that one enchantment. But I would ideally like to get a amulet that has, you can apply additional curse, about 50-ish life. Any other like defensive stats would be great as well. Specifically life is what I want, but you can see these are relatively like affordable. But if you go to the allocates Whispers of Doom, and then on top of that apply additional curse, yeah, you start seeing the prices, right? It's a little bit high. But on top of that, mentioning the different types of the gems. Like I said, Tornado Shot, there is the base one, which when you increase the quality, you get increased projectile damage. With the Anomalous, you get converts 0 to 60%. Well, it's going to be 60% always because you're going to quality it up. Physical to a random element, and the Divergent is increased attack speed. There is a Doom Fletcher build that does use the Anomalous, but in most cases, the alternate gems will be better in different builds. Sometimes though, the regular superior one will be totally okay too, but it's fine. It's not like this is like a must. It's just I just try to give you guys all the knowledge to you know, have at your disposal. But if you can get rings with crit strike multiplier, and you know, it's basically the same thing that you're getting already. Like right now, what you need to try to prioritize is life. I haven't really made any different things to the build. I was gonna try out grabbing one of these over here, which is like extra evasion while I have and any amount of energy shield. That could be okay too. I'm probably just gonna respec out at this point because I was gonna grab that node right there, but I'm probably gonna get a cluster jewel. Then I'm going to put the interrogation somewhere else so I can still have Secrets of Suffering, and I'll mention that later down the line. But the jewel that I want is probably gonna be expensive, so it's gonna be a while. I'm gonna have to grind out, just like, you know, you guys will too. Eventually grind out, and you'll be able to get things. But yeah, I haven't made any changes really to the tree other than I think I put this 1 point in. This is something that I would say is quite important. Remember, you do need to get the Lionized Fall for this, but the critical strikes have Culling Strike, even though it's a dagger mastery, since everything counts. Well, this one I think you could just get actually without even having to be a Lionized Fall on it. But either way, you want to get this because this makes it so bow attacks instead of the dagger. It says dagger, but it gives us bows because of this jewel. Definitely consider getting Culling Strike because that makes it so when the enemies are at 10% or under, they just pop. It's awesome. It's one of the greatest things ever because bosses tend to get harder and harder as you, like, you know, have like the next phase of a boss. So definitely get that. Another thing I wanted to mention, since we're going over like kind of the build now in terms of like damage, like I said, it really comes down to getting all of your gems, quality up all of your gems. Inspiration doesn't really matter. The inspiration quality, there is an alternate quality inspiration, but I actually should probably purchase that too. Let me actually show you guys this too, because like sometimes I gotta like look it up. By the way, always use the PoE DBTW for things versus the PoE wiki. The reason why is the PoE wiki is kind of outdated. Hopefully they will eventually keep up with everything, but let me look up inspiration support, and let me show you guys what that looks like. So inspiration support, you can see the difference. Let me go ahead and share screens. Okay, so the superior one, the increased inspiration charge duration does not matter. So this is where we're building up our charges, and the extra like duration of, I don't know, a couple seconds. Where does it say how long it lasts? Actually, we can just shoot once and I'll show you how long it lasts. So it lasts 10 seconds. So an additional, what, 20%, so you get an extra 2 seconds on the duration. It doesn't matter because I'm going to keep firing my inspiration charges anyways. Like it really, that doesn't matter too much. But the increased critical strike chance, hey, that's good. Reduced mana cost, you can consider it, but this is like definitely going to be good. Is it like going to be a huge DPS boost? Not really, but is it going to still count? Yeah, definitely. I mean, 20% crit strike chance, if you look at the tree, that could be about one node, depending on like I think like, you know, the bow over here, you get like 20%. Yeah, 20%. That's like basically almost one skill point. So consider that. Like there's no reason not to. It's just going to be free buff if you can afford the currency. Now I have to go check out the price on that, but you guys get what I'm saying. You got to get all of your gems. Make sure they're max level, max quality. This one is another one that once it hits level 20, I'm going to throw in the gem cutter prism, or I might just buy it. I'm going to check the prices. If these are relatively cheap, like, you know, 10 chaos orbs, and you have the currency, just buy them 20%, 20 quality. That way you can still continue to do the higher tier maps, because when you re-level up the gem, you're going to lose all of that bonus damage because of the levels, and you're going to have to re-level it up. But with this one, I think you can get like another 10% crit strike multiplier, so hey, that's another maybe a skill point almost. So like you got to get all of your things like completely maxed out. This one I just bought. This one over here, this is one where I did the thing where I put the gem in when it was level 20, and then I'm going to re-level it up to 20, and doing the same thing with this one. This one's almost level 20, so we'll be good. Once it gets level 20, though, I'm going to maybe corrupt it and try to hit level 21 to get another, like, 2% damage. Is it worth it? Yeah, it could be. But it's just part of min-maxing, and that includes, well, Hydrosphere, the level doesn't matter, the quality does matter, though. So you can do the same thing with your Hydrosphere. The reason why the pulse frequency is going to be higher when you get the quality up. With Frostbite, it's going to give you extra, like, same thing. It's going to make them better most of the time. So yeah, I'm qualitying up all of my stuff for the most part, and that's going to give you extra damage. Every small bit of damage adds up. You want to get like extra elemental damage on your rings, flat cold damage on your rings. That's what you're trying to really shoot for. Like on this jewel over here, I think we have what do we have? Oh, this one has no like offensive stats. Gives us extra resistances. Blind is I think what I wanted it for, but now I have blind on my gloves, and I'm gonna eventually. What I want to do is probably see if there is someone that did get that anoint that also has the corruption. It's a corrupted amulet that has the additional. You can apply additional curse. Then it's gonna have to have life. Then it's gonna either have to have. This thing is pretty cheap to actually anoint though. But I think Tainted Oil is going to be expensive. So if you hold Alt, where is it? It is right here. So it's I think that's Teal and Opalescence. I think I actually have an Opalescence. But let me check for the Tainted Oil, because I don't want to give you guys. So trade. We're gonna go to Path of the Trade website, and then we're gonna go type in Tainted Oil, because I believe you need that. It does cost Tainted Oil. These still super expensive. Tainted, oh, never mind. You know what? Tainted Oils are 2 exalts a piece. I would not recommend the whole like when you anoint, because when you anoint an item, it's gonna require a Tainted Oil to anoint the corrupt one. It's not worth getting it right now. For 2 exalts, you could get much better upgrades. Okay, so in terms of other things I do want to mention, is some people mentioned that like I saw someone's POB, they linked it, and it only had 3,000 life. You gotta have way more. Like I don't know what level everyone's at, but when you're like level like 90 plus, you need about 4.5K's average, I would say, for most people. You will see also that people that are very high up on the leaderboards, a lot of times they will have low life. And it's actually okay that they have low life, because one, they're just trying to get on the leaderboard for like most DPS, right? But on top of that, they do so much damage that they kill things before the AI can even react. So they're one-shotting everything, and they're killing the boss. By the time the boss says, hello, I am the boss, because a lot of bosses do that, they will kill the boss literally in that split seconds. But like their gear is super, super insane, and that's why they can afford to just go all damage, because they kill the boss before it even has a chance to react. And some boss fight mechanics, you have to actually know the game, and you have to dodge everything in order to successfully be able to have these low life builds. That's why for most of my like new player guides, I will try to prioritize getting a little bit more life, because sure, it might take you, instead of deleting the boss in 10 seconds, maybe it takes you 20, right? But at the end of the day, you can actually take the damage and not feel kind of discouraged when you do get one-shotted, because it is discouraging, and I understand in any action RPG to just die. But just make sure you're trying to get life on a lot of pieces of your gear. You'll see almost every single piece of my gear has a bunch of life, except for these boots, because these boots let me apply additional curse. But if I was to get boots with life on it, that could be almost at 5k life and another like 400 energy shield almost. This was really nice. Gives us massive life as well. Our helm doesn't give us life, but the helm is something I will never give up in any of my bow builds, because the SNS chant makes everything's so much smoother. You can manually cast Hydrosphere, but Hydrosphere with bow is just, it's so amazing. Until they nerf it, I will run it on every single build. But yeah, just look for life on your different pieces of gear. Obviously our chest piece has no life, but that's because it has massive amounts of damage. If you want to get a different chest piece, like I mentioned before, additional curse, base crit, and then life on it, but those are very expensive, and it just comes down to keep on farming the maps and keep on doing content, and eventually you'll get some exalts, and then you might get an item and you can sell it for several exalts. I haven't gotten anything really good this league, honestly. It's just a couple raw exalts. And right now on my 2-gen, which is the mechanic where we're doing the expedition where you set up the dynamites, you explode. Right now with the haggle mechanic, he's got an exalt waiting for me. I just have to collect enough of these grand black scythe artifacts, and then I will eventually get it. There's also Scarabs that can open up the expedition league mechanic. So if I go to have this stash tab over here called faces, and I believe on the Scarab there is expedition. Yeah, okay, so you can see that there's an expedition encounter, so I could start buying these. Keep in mind, you don't have to just play the game by yourself. Buy the items to roll on the maps. You can buy these Scarabs from other players, and you can roll these expedition encounters, and then you can have a chance to get 2-gen, and then you can get whatever you need. So like I said, if you have any questions, concerns, need some help, let me know in the comments of this video, and I'll update the next video with either that, or I'm just going to do the next boss fight, because that's kind of what I want to do next. But I may level up like one more time over here, maybe just get some more currency, because I do want that extra exalt, and maybe get Awakened Cold damage, and then we're going to do Shaper, and maybe we'll do Cyrus here, and that'll pretty much round off this like play session in terms of like the league for like a new player's beginner's guide. We got basically 1 or 2 more bosses. Usually Shaper and Cyrus are considered like endgame boss, and then there are technically uber variants of other bosses. There's Maven that can go even further with the game, but most people kind of burn out at about Shaper. Cyrus is kind of what I consider pretty good. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like on your way out, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good one, and I'm out. Peace.